infrastructure and energy facilities. To analyze the global impact of this war, especially on Africa, I have Abraham Quilneon, a professor of political science at the University of Juba in South Africa. In South Sudan, beg your pardon. I'm greeting him in his local dialect today. So, Prof. Kiba.
And Chibak.
And Chibak, okay, that's it.
Yes.
Chibak actually means good morning, though it's afternoon in South Sudan, but here it is still morning. So, Prof.
A minute.
Prof, we want to take a look at the US-Israel versus Iran war. I want us to take us through how this happened. It's something that I've been brewing and they've been able to curb it, but this time it is full-blown and it keeps escalating. What is actually happening or what happened?
Yeah, thank you very much, Elijah. It is an opportunity for me to talk this afternoon to the international desk and on issues that affect the regions and issues that affect the world, especially on US-Israel and Iran war, which I could say probably this one is going to shift what we call the Middle East geopolitics, because we have seen into it that Iran has been very strategic in the Middle East on the issues to do with proxy wars in Lebanon, like the issue of supporting Hezbollah, and Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, which could also escalate tension and lead to widespread proxy warfare. And I could say probably that US and Israel action might lead to increased alignment among Arab states, especially those seeking security guarantees and potentially redefining the alliance that is going to exist in the Middle East. Also, domestically, we could see such a conflict also is supposed to impact electoral issues to do with influence public opinions, because the Iranians are going to realign themselves based on the new dynamics that they have, because they have lost their leader, and because of this war, and some of them might be happy. People think that they were too much overpriced, and some can also be able to get annoyed more, so there will be a political divide within Iraq. And we could see it into it that there is a chance that the Iraq is supposed to realign itself to see indeed what is the near beginning, and the near beginning could either go well with Israel vis-a-vis US, or the new alliance could either go against the interests of the US and Israel at the same time. And as a result of this, we could be able to say in that this thing is also going to trigger a new international dynamic, especially the World Alliance and Cooperation, where we could look at countries like Russia, China, and the European Union could be almost having a new way of rethinking on where they could be able to align themselves based on diplomatic relations and landscape. And we could be able to see into it that now you're seeing Russia and China at this time that they are part of the superpower, but we know that China believes in the concept of non-interference into political affairs of the state. But we are not sure about what Russia will think, because Russia always, whatever the US always supports, the Russia always goes the opposite direction. And as a result of this, the first trigger that now, which is going to happen, is what is Russia going to do with other countries within Middle East? But Iran has also made another very big grave mistake. A grave mistake that they have done is to attack US bases in some of the Middle East countries, which will make these Middle East countries to be aggressive against them, because they will treat it as an invasion of their own land. So which will make somehow Iran to be isolated within the Middle East region. And I think this is the new dynamic which I think is supposed to happen currently.
Okay, now you just mentioned the probability of it escalating because Iran is attacking, you know, the U.S. bases in Middle East areas, you know, and what will be the effect of this? When you talk about the Middle East, already it is affecting everyone globally when you talk about energy crisis. But let's talk about the fact that Iran is attacking the U.S. bases. What do you expect Iran to have done when they first attacked Iran?
Well, you see into it that we have international law, which shows that since 1648 from the Westphalian Treaty, when all the states were granted their sovereignty and the concept of non-interference and not interfering into the affairs of the people of that country was declared. And we strongly believe that also according to the UN Charter, that the issue of invading other countries is not something that is acceptable according to the international law. And as a result of this, one thing also is that in the world, we had the issue of interest and issues of political dynamics, which shows into it that the superpower can decide to do what they do and nobody could be able to ask them. And as a result of this, at this specific point, the U.S. is using a concept of what we call the responsibility to protect, because international community and the superpower has a right to interfere into affairs of other states in the name of what we call protection, to protect the interests of the citizen. Because if the country is using their law to mistreat their own staff, or I mean their own citizens, then it guarantees the superpower and international community to intervene in
to
that country in the name of protecting. Iran is a major oil exporter and oil producer, and as a result of this, with this current conflict, if it continues to escalate, that could be able to reduce the level of oil production, and which could escalate the prices of oil to shoot up, which could be able to result into fuel crisis, not only in the Middle East, also affect the economy, because if there is no fuel that could be able to run different industrial work, then that could also affect the way the economy will be run, and also be able to lead to economic crisis, not only in the Middle East, but including in America, where the fuel supply will be limited.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Now, the whole reason for this at the initial stage was due to, it was meant to control nuclear weapons, right? And at the end of the day, Iran also launched drones and missiles at US bases, Israel and Gulf wars. It has also vowed to block oil exports. Now let's talk about the impact of this, because at the end of the day, there's the European countries, there are fears now in European countries that there will be a lot of displaced people will actually have to move to that end. What is the humanitarian effect of this?
Well, you know, I will take you back, Saloja, to when there was a Second World War, and during the Cold War period, and which ended around 1989, where the New World Order was to make U.S. to become the superpower, which take us from bipolar system to unipolar system. And there was a concept that was developed by them called MAD, which is mutually assured destruction, which means when Russia and USSR was against the USA, and at that time the problem was the issue of biological weapons, the chemical weapons, and weapons of mass destruction, which at that time, if those weapons were used by the two superpowers, then there was assurance that two countries will be able to destroy themselves. So, and that is when the concept of mud become very easy, and that is what led to the Cold War become a war of propaganda rather than the peaceful war that people can use the weapon. Now, with the coming with the Iraq, is that it is the same concept that come from the Cold War, that America is trying to control not only Iraq, but other countries like even North Korea, where issues of weapon of mass destruction and chemical weapons are being contained, and people are told to do them with carefulness, and that is also bringing fear because of power, politics, and as a result of this, I strongly believe this could impact humanitarian service delivery, because it will instill a fear not only in neighboring countries, even within the citizens of Iraq and people from Middle East and even America and Europe, because you could see into it that with the current war, you could see drones being sent to go and target places at a very far distance, which goes up to 3,000 kilometers. That is too dangerous for people to live in the current world. So whatever that has begun, it has to be contained, or else it will escalate. And if it escalates, then it will take us back to zero sum, where we are talking about mutually assured destruction, that we can destroy each other in this world unless we are more careful.
Can this lead to World War III?
Well, it could have probably led to World War III, but it is not possible now. Why? Because Iran has not contained itself, because they would have made the target to remain to US and also Israel, but the fact that they have aggressed their own, which are their own neighbor within Middle East, that is where the conflict will be contained, because it will not be necessarily about Israel vis-a-vis Israel within Middle East vis-a-vis other countries, because looking at Israel as a Christian country and or Jewish country vis-a-vis the Islamic war, which is supposed, probably if this thing was supposed to escalate, it could be more of a religious war rather than a political war. But because if Iran has become aggressive on their own neighbors that believe in the same faith with them, that believe in the same region, that believe in the same ideology, that is where this conflict will never escalate and should be contained.
Oh, I thought the war will actually unite them in the Middle East, or do you think otherwise?
Pardon?
I said I thought this war will actually unite those in the Middle East region, or do you think otherwise?
Well, true, that is what I said, but the problem is that Iran has destroyed the unity by attacking their own neighbors. Although, you know, in diplomacy, we said every single land where the embassy of a country is treated like to belong to that country. And by Iran being aggressive and launching attacks against other countries within the area that America has their base, that alone will not make those countries to be happy, because it will result into collateral damage. There will be citizens of those countries that will become the victim because of the attack from Iran. And that is what will diffuse the tension that this issue will escalate more. And in fact, if it escalates, it will only escalate against Tulbek.
Okay, so far he has said the war, that the fact that Iran attacked its neighboring countries is actually... Okay, Prof, we're having, it seems your network is not that favorable at that end, at your end. So for now, we'll take a short break. When we come back, International Desk, we'll continue. You're still watching International Desk, live from our studios in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, and I still have Professor Abraham Newell joining me virtually to talk about the US Israel versus Iran war. He has shed light on the impact of this war on the humanitarian angle. He talked about the humanitarian angle of the war, and now we're going into the effect of it on energy. In Nigeria already, the price of fuel is on the high side. It keeps rising daily. So I want to ask Prof now, what is it like in South Sudan? What is the impact of this on the global community? Prof?
Yes.
Yes, we have talked about the humanitarian angle of this, the effect of this on the people, right, the displaced ones,
Yes.
and the fears that at the end of the day, the European Union expressed fears that at the end of the day, the displaced people will actually storm the European community. Now let's talk about the effect of this on energy. How is it like in South Sudan? What's the price of fuel like in South Sudan now?
Well, the price of fuel has hiked of recent, and what has hiked is not necessarily about the current conflict, but because of also some new government policies that were introduced to levy more tariffs on the fuel at the border between Uganda and South Sudan, where the oil is always imported. And as a result of this, the fuel has become very high. We may not know what will happen next, but the fact remains that the price of fuel now has always increased by 50%, because recently each liter of fuel was like 6,000 to 7,000 South Sudanese pounds, but it is now between 11 and 12,000 South Sudanese pounds, which is previously it was like $1.5, but now $1.2 to maximum of $2.
Okay. So, but what is the effect globally? How is the war affecting the global community when we talk about energy?
Well, we could say that the conflict could disrupt oil supply. That's what I can say. And this would impact global energy market. As I said, it will also increase inflation rates, and also it could lead to economic instability worldwide, especially in the energy-dependent economies. And we could see probably in the countries like in the Gulf Cooperation Council, it might face economic disruption and form a conflict spillover, which from their own security concern, which will be able to prompt increased military spending or shifts in the trade routes. And probably we could be able to see into it that countries will be able to increase their military expenditure, and which could cite or increase the defense in industries. It will involve mostly things to do with defense industrial revolutions, because people will be depending a lot on producing more weapons rather than trying to promote peace, because the countries are going to prepare themselves because of the concept of security dilemma, because at the neighborhood, if your neighbor is arming themselves, it also increases fear and insecurity to the neighboring countries. And as a result of this, the concept of armed race is going to increase, not only in the Middle East, but across the world, because we don't know what is going to happen next.
Now, do you see the war ending soon? President Trump says it's likely to end very soon, but do you think it will end very soon?
Well, the concept of it ending very soon is not predictable. Why? Because Americans might need to end it, but there might be another geopolitical interest, which that kind of alliance and realliance which is happening because of this will determine whether the war can continue or not. It is not necessarily about America, because if other countries become more aggressive on America, that will make America to be more aggressive. But if the aggressiveness is contained by those other countries in using the concept which I told you, the issue of self-destruction, then chances of it ending soon are very high.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Iran actually said, the Deputy Foreign Minister actually said there is likelihood that the war fighting is likely. There will be ceasefire because countries like China, Russia, and France, they have reached out to discuss possible ceasefire. But he gave a condition. He said US-Israel must stop the attack. Hello, Prof.
Hello. Yes, I did not get you well.
Yes, I said Iran gave a condition, and that is US-Israel must stop their attacks. And do you think that will happen? You know, with attacks on oil bases now.
But, okay, you know what happened mostly in international politics? Iran could be able to give conditions, but the level of the American to listen to their condition is very minimum. Because in international politics, you don't give condition to people who are more powerful than you. What you need to do to surrender, and in that kind of surrender, it is to compromise and try to meet the conditions that are required by the state that is more powerful than you.
Okay, thank you so much. And do you think Iran will surrender just like that?
Iran will not surrender very much because Iran has been leading proxy wars, as said, and has been seen to be a mini superpower within the Middle East. And as a result of this, it will depend on the new leadership which is going to come on board, looking at the current leadership that has come, the transitional leadership. So that could be able to make them to change, depend on the new alliance that they are going to have. But it will not be easy because the ideology promoted easily, it will take time for it to be reduced and for it to compromise.
Okay, talking about new leadership, President Donald Trump said he wants to be part of the selection process for a new supreme leader.
Well, chances are very high that since America is the one that was spearheading the changes in Iran, and for the stability of Iran, it needs America to be involved in selection of the leadership. But if they do their own, then which means that one can be done in consultation with America, and this will reduce hostility. Otherwise, if the people who are, especially the supporters, the previous leader, are the ones who are going to come on, then the level of aggression of America will continue to increase.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Abraham Neon, all the way from South Sudan, is a professor of political science. We thank you for your presence here, your virtual presence here on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
All right. And that brings us to the end of International Desk for this week. We hope you'll join us again same time next week. Till then, stay blessed.